What's good, everybody? Victory and Vices podcast, episode 30. Me, Rory Spooner, James Veck, back again. We got a lot to go over today. First and foremost, though, thanks to everybody that's been pushing the plays and everything else in between, whether it's SoundCloud, iTunes, all of that, tweeting us. We really appreciate it. We're getting close now to 1,000 plays, so if you haven't seen any of the videos, make sure you do watch them. And if you haven't subscribed, or you know friends that might want to subscribe, point them in our direction. We're looking to try and push up to about, give or take, 5,000 plays by summer. So hopefully we'll hit the targets we've set. But yeah, again, thanks to everybody for doing that. We'll kick off this episode with two of the, what we'll call mid-table teams, Wolves and Leicester.
Yeah, mid-ish, yeah.
And now that, for those who didn't see it, was a hell of a game. We talked about some of the bigger teams offering a terrific advert for the Premier League. That was something special. Diogo Jota, potential signing of the season so far?
Well, in terms of his goal return, you wouldn't necessarily say so. I think before this moment, or before his hat-trick this weekend, certainly, he hadn't scored an awful lot of goals. I think they said he doubled his tally. He'd only scored maybe 2 or 3 this season.
Yeah, so did I see 5 somewhere? Maybe did he score all season? Yeah, maybe 5
but
or 6.
He's certainly not far off doubled or added massively to his total so far.
What was his transfer fee, do you know?
I'm not sure. Was it for just something quite small? Like, was it 5 or 10 million, something around there?
He may not be the signing of the season.
Impact.
But he might be bargain of the season.
Yeah. Oh, he's in the games that I've watched for Wolves. He's offered quite a lot. You've got, they like to break on the counter with Jimenez and Traore when he comes on. Obviously, Moutinho, Ruben Neves as well. They've got good ball players.
Ruben Neves.
Neves' pass, by the way, for the Jota's second goal.
Oh my God!
Is superb.
Pingsville, straight out of Pingsville.
And we spoke last episode about how good Pogba's pass was to Rashford, myself included.
Yeah.
I know there was a lot of noise made about that, but you could make a case, depending on what you like, that Ruben Neves' pass was in the same league, if not possibly better. So he deserves just as much credit as
Most
people give Pogba that sort of credit. But I mentioned in the previous episode as well that Wolves obviously did really well against the big sides because they could just set up, defend and counter.
Yeah.
But against the smaller sides, they weren't all that great. Leicester also reminded me of something similar as well. They beat City, they beat Chelsea,
yes,
but they struggled to do well against the smaller sides. So I was really interested to see how these two teams set up against each other, because they have kind of a similar setup, and it totally didn't disappoint it.
It was a hell of a game.
Yeah.
Jota's transfer fee, I think, is 14 million euros. Mm-hmm. I think when I was doing my transfer video, I picked out Ruben Neves. If you haven't seen it, go look at all the videos. But Ruben Neves in particular, I put in the Spurs transfer video. I think he'd be a great player for Spurs. Yeah. He's exactly what they're missing right now. His transfer fee, I think, was 16 million. Ruben Neves, just to touch upon him very quickly as well, captained the Porto side at 18 years old in the Champions League.
Really?
Didn't realise that till I was doing my research. Wolves have an absolute gem on their hands. He could easily go for 40 to 50 million. I think they'll struggle to keep some players in the summer. Neves in particular, I think some of the others will stick around for another season. But if Neves progresses the way he keeps doing, man, he's going to be some player.
Yeah, and
reminds me of a young Steven Gerrard. Is that too big a compliment?
It is a big compliment, that is. Obviously, you need to see. I can see where you're coming from in terms of the attributes that they have. Obviously, for him to be truly compared to someone of that quality, you'd have to see him do it, especially for the rest of the season at least. And
but in terms of the attributes,
in terms of the attributes, they're similar type of players who play in similar parts of the pitch. Neves though isn't one that you tend to see pick up many goals. I think he's only scored 1 or 2 goals this season.
When he does score, though, they are spectacular.
And I'm sure I unleashed a stat a couple of weeks ago how he hasn't been in the opposition box or hasn't had a shot in the opposition box or something like that. So he's very much box to box, but he doesn't get a nosebleed. He doesn't wander up too far, and he tends to keep himself, just on the edge of the area and sort of in the centre of the park.
Do you think that's maybe the side he's in, and then just because if he plays in a bigger team, for example, let's say he plays in a Spurs midfield where he plays in like a 2-man pivot, so he would have, let's say, Harry Winks alongside him, Winks holds, he's allowed to go forward. Maybe in a better side he would.
Definitely. And I just think that it's where he's playing his best football at the moment. He doesn't like to go too far forward. Yes, he doesn't get that many assists, but he's often really well involved in the build-up.
Yeah, he is.
He plays one of the key passes if it's not the assist, or he's the one seen making, an important turn, or he gets the attack moving, So, Spurs have let Dembele go, which I was a little bit shocked about.
Do you know what? When I was doing my transfer video, Spurs was probably one of the easiest ones to do, because they have such massive gaps in midfield, and for me, Neves stood out straight away.
Yeah, he'd be an excellent replacement for that.
He'd be an excellent signing. Spurs fans, please don't go in. Spurs fans, Wolves fans, please don't go in on me again. When we first started the podcast, I had a little nibble at some Wolves fans, and I swear to God, half of Wolverhampton tweeted me back and were just going in
Portugal.
on me. Look, I want Neves to stay at Wolves at least another season. I mean, he's 21. He doesn't really need to go anywhere just yet. I think another regular season with Wolves and in the Premier League will do him the world of good.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if somebody like a Spurs comes in, or bigger comes in, I mean, look, they're not going to be able to turn it down. No. It'll be interesting. But yeah, going back to the game, for the neutral, like ourselves, incredible.
Yeah.
If you're a Leicester fan, you're thinking, what the actual fuck is going on?
Yeah.
The game. I talk about game management a lot. You get the game back to 3-3. You need to play the percentages. You need to put the ball in the corner. You need to take the ball into the corner. You need to manipulate possession. I don't know what Leicester were doing, because they give the ball away. And Neves' pass, again, another person I have put in transfer videos who completely mugged me off this week is Ben Chilwell.
Yeah.
Ben Chilwell, you made me look like a dick because I fucking said you were the best thing since sliced bread, and Ruben Neves played the most impossible pass between, I think it was Johnny Evans and Ben Chilwell, and then they go on and score the fourth goal. So yeah, I'm not doing any more transfer videos.
No, it was certainly a brilliant game. Leicester fans over previous weeks, I've been a little bit frustrated in terms of the style of football that Puel
mentioned this a lot.
Is playing at the moment, and yes, they were on the wrong side of a 4-3 defeat, but they scored some decent goals.
Some very good goals.
And it was, you didn't get the 3 points, didn't even get a point, but it was nice to see Leicester being involved in games of football that you would associate them with in seasons gone by.
Totally agree, yeah.
It depends, Leicester fans, what you really want, because obviously they'll be very frustrated, very annoyed of the result. I will ultimately criticise the side and possibly Puel as well. Yet, when he tries to grind out ugly sort of wins away from home, again, he's criticised. That he's not doing enough and that he's under pressure.
Where do Leicester go from here, right? Because again, when I watched the game over the weekend, people are saying, Puel, he might be in a bit of trouble and this, that and the third. And okay, admittedly, Leicester fans will let us know, he's lost a couple of games that they should have won. That was Newport, they lost to Cardiff.
Yeah.
The Cardiff one was a bit of a fluke for Cardiff, in fairness. It was just a wonder strike by Camarasa, but
yeah.
I don't get... what are Leicester's expectations? Because they are set. Well, they're 9th now. Basically, they're 9th on 31 points. Watford is 7th on 33, and above that, then you've got the top 6 who are like 11 points clear. So in that sort of mini league, they're still in the top 10. What do Leicester fans want exactly?
It's like I've said in previous episodes, I think their expectations of the club are skewed because of what they've achieved in recent seasons, namely winning the Premier League. So we know that that is a total anomaly of a result, and is something of that magnitude is never going to happen again, especially not in our lifetime anyway in the Premier League.
I wouldn't have thought so, no.
So it's like you said, they sit in 9th place, right? And if the board are sitting down, if I'm Claude Puel and the board are sitting down when we having crunch talks and sort of potentially... implying that I may get the sack or my job's under pressure. One of the things I'd be saying to them is, okay, so we're sitting 9th place. There's only 2 sides above us in this league who you could potentially argue maybe shouldn't be. Everyone else, we're not going to get near. They haven't spent that much money. Hardly anything. Wolves have spent more money than them, and Watford are currently just having a good run. So I don't really see, if I'm Claude Puel, the question I'm asking is, we haven't really had that much money to spend, so where or how much further do you expect me to go or to take this side than where they already are?
I think it's a risk if they do decide to bring in another manager. And again, Leicester fans, if you are watching, let us know, because we'd be really interested to find out. Let's say they go, okay, we're going to change Puel, we're going to have a new guy come in. That new guy then, where does he take them? Does he take them from 9th to 7th?
And the thing is as well that you need to appreciate as well is that if they win, on one weekend of fixtures. If they win and Watford and Wolves don't win, then they go back to 7th.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So they're 2 points from 7th, and Leicester go up to 7th. Then what's the board going to say then?
Yeah.
Or we expect more? What do you expect them to overtake United, Arsenal, and Chelsea?
I don't. This is what I mean. I don't get it, but yeah, I know. Anyway.
The thing I would like to ask any Leicester fans that are watching the podcast and watching the episodes, drop us a comment in the section below and let us know if you think that Leicester are actually underachieving, or are they actually just doing about what you'd expect.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
I don't see it.
And if you think that they're underachieving, why?
Yeah, again, I'd love to know any Leicester fans that think they are underachieving, because, like I said, realistically, where do you expect them to be? I mean, okay, they had some good times in the Champions League, and they won the Premier League, but that's absolutely a one-off. That's not going to happen on a consistent basis, but that's just my take on it anyway. But going forward, Becky, I wanted your opinion as well. A lot of passion seems to be getting sucked out of the game, and there's a lot of double standards which I've noticed in the game now. And a perfect example is Nuno getting sent off. So Nuno now celebrates a last-minute winner. Doesn't really go that mad. Sort of canters down the touchline, gives a little hug. Thanks, lads. Well done, right? Nuno gets sent to the stands. Now, Jurgen Klopp, during the Merseyside derby, sprints onto the pitch, in the middle of the pitch now. Doesn't go around the side of the pitch, the middle of the pitch. Nothing happens to Jurgen Klopp. Ironically, the same referee that refereed that game refereed this game. So I'm probably thinking in the back of his mind, he's going, oh shit, I probably should have sent off Klopp before. But there does seem to be a double standard now with Klopp in particular, and that's not a dig at Liverpool fans, but Jurgen Klopp seems to get away with an awful lot on the touchline compared to other managers. And people say, oh, it's passion, but when he does it, it's okay, but when someone else does it, it isn't. And I don't like that personally.
Yeah, there's also another example as well. The Sunday supplement highlighted Guardiola. Don't know if you saw that one.
Yes.
I can't remember who they beat. I'm sure it was Southampton or someone like that. They beat them 2-1 in the 2017-18 season. And he joined in with celebrations with his players. He was on the pitch. He left his technical area, which is the rule that you shouldn't leave your technical area until after the match. And he had no sanctions after the match for that either. So it is a little bit of double standards involved, because I don't really understand. Do you know what the exact ruling is as to why? Is there a specific, genuine rule as to why they can't cross the technical area? I understand obviously doing play, of course, but
I can only assume it's a safety issue. I don't really know though.
Yeah, and I think with Klopp, and again, this isn't a dig at Liverpool or Klopp, because it's not his fault, which I just want to put that out there if anyone thinks I'm having a pop at him. It's not Jurgen Klopp's fault that he isn't being charged for certain offences. He's not in control of that.
Yeah.
But I do think we often get confused, or perhaps it's the certain governing bodies behind it, the refereeing and the Premier League in general, seem to get masked or confused by his passion, and that they think that because of how passionate he is about everything and his players and the fans and how animated he is on the touchline, that he's maybe somewhat doesn't have to play by the same rules, that he brings something to the league. And for some reason,
it's strange.
It's allowed to be taken into consideration.
I don't really like it. Remember Mourinho, the whole thing with the water bottles when he threw him down, and everyone's like, "Oh, Mourinho, I know this, that, and the third." But then Klopp is on the sideline going absolutely berserk at officials, and it's a massive double standard, and I really dislike it, especially seeing Nuno. I can't understand why just these fucking dweebs that are in charge of football go, oh, a last minute winner, you can't take off your shirt, and you can't celebrate with anyone, and basically you've just got to walk away and pretend to be happy. It's just shit. They're just sucking the life out of the game.
Yeah, it's just British bullshit with health and safety.
Like I said before, it's some guy who probably dresses like an estate agent, right, who's never actually kicked a ball, and that they exist at the higher level of football. These people exist. They dress like accountants, estate agents, and just dweebs, and they don't have a fucking clue. But that's my take on it anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with that.
Yeah.
Wanted to roll off a couple of stats about the game as well, as we always do. We like stats here as well. So Wolves, they actually got the win in the 93rd minute, and that's the third 90th or later minute winner that they've had in the league this season, which is more than any other side. So if there's one lesson you take from that, is that you don't write Wolves off until the very last minute, because they seem to be popping up with a couple of goals late on. Wes Morgan as well also scored his first goal in 73 Premier League appearances.
Wes Morgan got torn to shreds.
I know.
If there's ever a contrasting day, right, don't let the Wes Morgan goal fool you, because that guy, oh my God, they dragged him everywhere.
I watched the game and I thought to myself, and I knew that Wes Morgan still played for Leicester.
Yeah.
But I watched the Leicester game and the highlights, and I had like a random like moment, like an epiphany, and I watched the game and I thought, wow, Wes Morgan still plays football for Leicester at the high level.
He should have gone out on top. He should have quit afterwards.
And it just dawned on me in that second, like, oh, why is he still playing football for Leicester City?
He got really badly exposed in the weekend.
He'll go down as a club legend, and he was instrumental in that year that they won the Premier League title, and he was still, pretty decent the year after when they got into the Champions League and had a good run, but his best days are by far behind him now.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Wes. I like him as a player. But yeah, he's
not with it anymore.
Oh, he really struggled. Yeah. He really struggled. On another note, Den Donker. I did not know that he played for Wolves until I saw his name.
No.
But that just eluded me, considering we've been doing this for how long now, and I must have just missed that transfer, because I looked at him and I was like, I'm sure he was at Anderlecht, but he's on loan from Wolves.
Yeah.
And I did know he's a terrific player.
To be fair to you, Wolves did sign like 47 players in the transfer window, so
they've got like
you can be
18.
excused for one.
But yeah, they made some really smart signings. I mean, Dendoncker, Moutinho, Jota, Rui Patricio. He almost had a bit of a fucking mare with Vardy as well. Who else was there that they signed? Traore, aka the Roadrunner. He's lightning. I like Wolves. I think they're a great side, in fairness. Like I said before, potentially my team of the season, depending on what other teams do. Quick stat view about Leicester. This is actually a really interesting one. I don't know if it's necessarily a fair comparison, but people may like it. Have you seen the Kasper Schmeichel stat?
With his against his father?
Yeah, so it basically says Kasper Schmeichel conceded his 200th, 201st and 202nd Premier League goals in his 156th game in the competition. It took his father, Peter Schmeichel, 241 games to hit the 200 goals conceded mark in the top flight in English football. Kasper will never be Peter, so I don't know why people are making those comparisons and making those stats. I can assume it's just a genetic comparison, but Schmeichel's one of the greatest of all time.
I mean, the sides that they played in as well
they are vastly different.
Poles apart. I mean, if you put Kasper Schmeichel in the United side of years gone by, then maybe he'd have a stats limit to that one. Maybe not quite as good, but maybe a lot closer than that, So
yeah. Yes, I just thought that was a really good stat.
Yeah, I had a quick skim over that one. I thought, well, that's not overly relevant, is it? But no, they'll throw a stat about anything these days. But one thing I will say about these two sides is that I think that they'll both kind of finish roughly where they are now.
Yeah, we said that in that mini league between 7th and 12th, they can finish anywhere in there. So
neither of them look like they're in any trouble of dropping deep into that second half of the table. So yeah, I think they'll just stick roughly where they are.
Cool. All right. So from 1-4-3 to another, we're going to Liverpool and Palace. I again am a firm believer this is going to be Liverpool's year. I started the season with City as my favourites. I've since switched. Whatever luck Liverpool need lately, they seem to be getting a lot of it, an awful lot of it. Yeah. One thing I talked about with a Liverpool fan today was Salah. Salah, again, I don't want to sound like I'm going in on Liverpool fans, but Salah's play acting, should we call it? Tell me what you thought about that that fall, I'm going to call it.
Well, what I will say, he was accused of a dive earlier on this season, a few games ago, which I was a bit borderline on. And then more recently, he was accused again of one against Newcastle, which I actually was on his side with that one, that I felt that there was perhaps enough contact, I thought, for him to go down, and that it was a penalty. Yeah. So as much as I have criticised his play acting antics in the past, I did side with him on that one. I just want to point that out first of all. However, myself, and I think it's kind of a view that's shared by the majority of football fans, I think this weekend's one is unacceptable. Yeah. And I don't really think there's any real contact at all. No,
it's the delayed reaction as well that really doesn't do him any favours. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it, because he gets a little nibble at his ankle, but then the delay
doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, it's borderline embarrassing to be honest.
I don't think that Liverpool fans, any fans in general, there isn't a leg to stand on with this one, literally.
And I don't think a lot of Liverpool fans would condone that either.
No,
absolutely not.
Yeah, you have to just hold your hands up with this one and kind of just say, yeah, I think that was a genuine dive. And it's ones like those. I know it's difficult for the referee to make a decision in the moment. They say that if it's not a penalty or a free kick, then it's a yellow card. Yes, I do feel for referees a little bit these days because it's such a difficult decision, because it all happens so fast. And we've kind of made a rod for our own back, the way the game has gone in terms of if there's contact, then it can be classed as a penalty. But we've seemed to create this middle ground in between now where there's almost that argument of, is it a penalty or is it just he had a bit of contact but it wasn't enough? But it was enough for him to go down, but it wasn't a yellow card for a dive.
It's a bit of a minefield in a sense that you have some players who are so fast that even the slightest sort of push on them, you're going to knock them off balance. And it is a penalty. But then you have some players, like for example, Jamie Vardy the other week, where he tried to go down and it was one of the worst dives I've probably ever seen in my life. And it's sort of something I'm noticing a lot more frequently. You had obviously, the Mohamed Salah incidents, you had Kane, you had Ali, Son, James Maddison. It's culturally, I don't know if maybe culturally there's a shift in football in this country. Like in foreign countries, I don't want to say it's very acceptable, but from a young age, you're taught if you get contact to go down, and it's not necessarily frowned upon as much. But over here with us, then it's slightly different. We take the sort of British approach, you got to stay on your feet and be the good guy, so to speak. The
frustrating part for me as well is you touched upon something there where you said that the game is played at such a pace that any contact they can go down, and I know I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I'm not a huge fan of that either, and I kind of think that players being fully grown adults, especially players like Harry Kane with the strength that he has, I still believe under that pressure or under a little nudge, even at the pace they're going, still has the ability to stay on their feet. And I think that we've kind of created a culture, or there's a culture that's come over to the Premier League, because you wouldn't see dives like that or penalties like that 10, 15 years ago.
No, absolutely.
That would never happen.
No.
So there's almost like a culture that's come over to the Premier League where we've kind of almost found it acceptable to use that excuse of, if it's contact, then they can go down, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of it, but it is the way that it is. But this week with Salah, just to reiterate, I think there is no excuse for that one.
Yeah, it's a disappointing one.
The sad thing about it is that, obviously, being a United fan, and yourself as well, it's of no surprise that I don't like Liverpool. Okay, we know that's quite obvious. Now, I am, I remain as fair as I can, and we credit Liverpool, City.
Yeah, that's fact. Yeah, we do.
When we have to, because there's no way around it. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Liverpool, not a huge fan of Mohamed Salah, but when he does the things that he does, sometimes, and when I say the things that he does, because there was the good and the bad this weekend.
True that.
Yes, there was a bit of luck in his first goal, but the way that he took that goal. It was superb.
Bro, different gravy.
And for people who think that I may be slating him and Liverpool, his first goal was nothing short of superb.
It was unbelievable.
The ability in that, it should not go unnoticed. Yes, it only looks to some like a tap in, but the way that he just flicked that into the net.
Finessed it. Yeah, that's what I like to call it.
That was brilliant. And it's moments like those where when he scored that, I sort of thought, this guy is good.
Yeah.
Last season I said, could he do it again? And he seems to be doing it again. And the moment I go to give him some credit, he does things like that with the play acting.
Lets himself down.
And he makes it so difficult for me to give him the credit he deserves when he does things like that. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, that kind of took the gloss off his performance.
That was a good way to put it.
Just to go over the good points of Mohamed Salah, because there are a few. He scored his 50th Premier League goal in his 72nd appearance.
Yeah.
Only Andy Cole, Alan Shearer and Ruud van Nistelrooy have reached the milestone in fewer appearances. So he's in some very elite company there. He's not essentially an out-and-out striker either. He kind of just drifts off the main striker and, he's in and around the box. So his record is incredible for someone who, Frank Lampard said was... a very average winger during his Chelsea days, but he's gone away, transformed his game, come back, and he's doing incredibly well. If Liverpool were to lose his goals, I mean that's game over, right? I mean, surely they can't win the league if Salah goes out injured or he gets suspended, because no one else is chipping in like he does.
Yeah, you would say that. I think it's him and Van Dijk are the two most important players. I know that might seem quite obvious, but I put a poll up previously on the VMV Twitter page, and which one would they miss more? And I think it was a very close poll in the end.
Yes.
So
it was actually, yeah.
I think if they were to lose Salah to injury, obviously we're speaking hypothetically, but it would put a massive dent in them going forward. Because yes, Firmino's very good. Actually read a stat about him that since Klopp took over, he's been involved in more goals than any other player for Liverpool.
Really?
He's been involved in 69 goals, 45 goals and 24 assists. So obviously, yes, he's been there longer than Salah, and I'm sure maybe Salah might take that record, after being at Liverpool a similar time to Firmino. But Firmino's very good, Mane is very good, but Salah is superb.
Yeah, he is just a
and it's
brilliant
more,
player.
yeah, and it's almost like this game. You say about the stars maybe aligning for Liverpool. They had a massive slice of luck this weekend.
They had a huge slice of luck.
And I just wonder if that will run out, because...
See, I'm thinking that will continue. I don't know why. Like I said, my gut feeling is
possibly,
that Liverpool going to continue.
I mean, the first goal, Van Dijk shoots, deflects, so unfortunately into the path of Salah. Great finish, as we said.
Yeah.
The second one, Firmino takes another deflection. This one was very hard to see, but when you look back, Robertson did touch it with his hand.
Yes.
In the fourth goal.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Again, that's a VAR debate.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
In fairness to the referee and the officials, that would have been very, very hard to see. But Palace played very, very well, and they were very determined. They went 1 up, and even when they went 2-1 down, they couldn't have had much worse luck to go 2-1 down early in the second half, and they still came back to 2-2. But you've got to credit Liverpool. They're doing their thing. They got another 3 points, whichever way you look at it.
They march on.
But I'll be interested to see if they had they lost to City and they lost in the cup as well. Was it to Wolves? They lost to.
They did indeed, yeah.
And they've had a little bit of little wobble here and there, but they're holding firm at the moment.
They're getting injuries, but the key men they need are still out there.
Yeah.
And that's what's holding it together right now for Liverpool. But I'm still of the opinion that they'll win the league.
They are one bad injury away from having big issues, though. If Van Dijk or Salah gets injured.
Oh yeah, look.
And it can happen, because you look at Spurs, Ali's injured, Kane is injured, Son's obviously away, and they, we'll come to them obviously in a bit, but they had their struggles this weekend as well. So if the luck continues, which it can do, then there's every chance.
That there is, yeah. Great win for Liverpool in fairness. Palace have had the Indian sign over them a few times over the past few seasons, so for them to get over that and just come out of it pretty much unscathed, I think Liverpool fans will be very happy. In terms of the next game we'll cover then, we'll go over Bournemouth and West Ham very quickly too. Andy Carroll missed of the season?
Yes.
I'm still not sure how he missed. Andy Carroll was linked today with Spurs as well, as a Harry Kane sort of replacement.
I heard that as well, yeah.
I think that must have been someone in an office who was just bored shitless and gone, you know what, we kind of need to fill in some column inches. Who can I put down to link with Spurs? Oh, Andy Carroll, he's back playing again. I kind of felt bad for the guy, man. I kind of felt bad. Just when you need a little bit of luck, right? He's good. Arnautovic is probably going to go to China and take the money. Or as Arnautovic has put it, I like to go and win trophies.
Well, have you heard the recent reports on the Arnautovic thing as well?
When today?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. You.
Well, apparently they said now that the deal looks like it could be off. Because the Chinese side that have agreed to meet the valuation have suddenly decided that they're potentially going to pull the plug on the valuation.
Particular reason why, did they say?
I'm not entirely sure, actually.
That's weird that you would bid for a player and then go, oh, actually, we don't want him.
So there's still every opportunity that he could go. The window's still open, but as you were saying with your point as well, with regards to Arnautovic going. Excuse me.
You right for that? You were thinking about all that Chinese money.
I think all that Chinese money.
Yeah.
So if Arnautovic was to go, obviously they've got Carroll at the moment, but he has his threats, as Reece likes to point out.
Very limited threats.
The world's greatest target man, Andy Carroll.
Oh my God.
But you just wouldn't think he would miss that. Yes, the ball may come at him.
I don't think anyone would miss that.
But that's a talent in itself to loft the ball that high.
Jesus Christ.
That close to the goal.
When I saw it, I actually couldn't quite believe it. I actually had to watch it again. I was like, he surely couldn't have missed from there. And that's, like I said, it's his time to shine. Arnautovic has completely fallen out with everyone. He looks like he's on his way to China. They're like, Andy, this is your stage to shine. Save us. And he comes in and he just royally fucks it up. That sums up Andy.
It's harder to miss. I'm sure it's harder to miss.
If that was a Jaeger bomb, by the way, he wouldn't have missed. Andy Carroll is a fucking... he loves a drink. He's a hell of a lad, let me tell you. And he would not have missed if I was a Jaeger bomb. But
not at all.
Yeah, anyway, in terms of the game itself, I mean, Arnautovic, we touch upon him very quickly just before we come to the game, actually. Do you think he'll go yay or nay? I mean, how long we got left in the window? 10 days?
From what I heard today, I don't think he will go now.
I think, did Pellegrini make him apologise to the squad? Which I thought was a bit harsh, by the way. I mean, ultimately, Arnautovic, I don't know how he conducted himself, but realistically, Arnautovic is looking for better employment. He's looking for a bigger wage. It's a very unique opportunity as well. I don't think he should be forced to apologise to people because he wants to go.
No.
I mean, that's just, it's just life, isn't it? But
yeah, I mean... we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, as you say, how he's conducted himself around sort of the team and a training ground, etc. The last game he played, he had like a standing ovation, he had an applause, and he sort of seemed he was waving goodbye, and it seemed that, there was nothing too bad about his departure. But just looking at it now on Sky Sports, it looks like he is expected to stay.
That's interesting.
He's expected to stay at West Ham after his suitors from the Chinese Super League failed to meet the Premier League club's valuation. So apparently they were going to meet it. Was it Guangzhou Evergrande?
That is excellent pronunciation, by the way.
And Shanghai, and then SIPG.
So they won't pay the 50 million.
Yeah.
I'm curious. We probably don't have a lot of Chinese listeners, in fairness, but I'm curious to find out why the Chinese clubs will offer such a high wage but won't pay a transfer fee.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Well, I don't know the logistics behind that and how that works, but I'm also reading as well, though, that the Chinese transfer window remains open till the end of February.
Does it?
So the situation could still change, but apparently the difference in valuation at the moment is quite significant. So
it must be.
Whether it's something to do with, and I'm just completely speculating here, by the way, but whether it's something to do with they can only pay a certain amount of money in one block, but over the course of weekly wages and things like that, I don't know if it's something to do with how that all works. So maybe they can say we can only pay you this much in one go.
But I mean, like any other club, they can pay via direct debit, every month. Like I don't know
APR.
why. I don't know why they. I don't know why if they just don't want him, they pay the money. But there we go. I mean, look, it is what it is.
Yeah. It also says as well, just another thing, just reading as we go. Meanwhile, each Chinese super club team is only allowed to have 4 foreign players in the squad. So.
Clearly there's room for him though, otherwise they wouldn't be going for him.
Maybe they have their eye on somebody else, so the window's open until the end of February.
That's
but
a long window.
Bit of a bizarre one, because it looked set to happen quite straightforward. And now it doesn't look to be the case.
Yeah, no, very
But
true.
yeah, obviously going back to the game, it was a very good game actually, if you caught this one fully.
Caught bits of it, yeah, saw the goals and a few other bits.
Obviously you look at the score and you think, comfortable win for Bournemouth, but when you look at the Andy Carroll sitter, they had another couple of moments as well. Bournemouth did ride their luck at times, and you could argue they were kind of chasing the game. They didn't really have much, but when they did, Callum Wilson.
Look, I mean, there's been a huge debate. Can Callum Wilson play at the top level for a bigger club? I mean, if you're scoring goals like that, the answer is yes, because that was a fantastic strike. And he's only 2 weeks back after 2 weeks out with a hamstring injury. So his hamstrings must be made of, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what he's made of, because ultimately there's players that have hamstring injuries and they just don't come back that quick, and when they do, they have to ease themselves back in.
Yeah, he's done them both as well. Is it both his knees? He's had ACLs on as well.
Jesus Christ, hell of a strike.
So he's certainly come back from injuries, difficult injuries, but like Shearer mentioned on Match of the Day, at his age it is possible to do that, because Shearer did it. He said it's only when you get into your early 30s you start to notice the few yards of pace that you've lost.
I was going to say he will probably start, that will probably start to register with Callum Wilson as he gets older, and then you'll find probably between 30 and 33, that period he'll have to maybe drop down a level or drop down a club, because his body just isn't going to be able to hold up to the sort of rigours of professional football. But yeah, salute to him though. It was an outstanding goal. Great win for Bournemouth as well. It's just what they needed, in fairness. They're up to 12th now, and again they're only 3 points behind Watford in 7th.
I mean, they stopped the rot. I think they lost 9 out of their previous 12, and they've drawn a few as well. So they certainly went on a good run. But they got the job done. Callum Wilson's goal, as we said, was excellent. So hopefully that gets them back on a little bit of form, because I do like watching a good Bournemouth side.
Yeah.
We said before about Ryan Fraser, Brooks, Wilson, King, Stanislas. They've got some talented boys in that squad, and when they play well, they can be a real joy to watch.
Yeah.
The Callum Wilson situation, just a quick word on that from me. It's an interesting one, because you see him score goals like that, and he's been superb this season. And behind Harry Kane, he's scored the most goals out of any English player, more than Sterling, more than Rashford, I point out as well. So the stats don't lie. The problem is that they're valuing him at £75 million.
I think that's just the English tax to scare people off.
Now, if you're Chelsea or something, I know that there's a situation with Higuain, and that looks to be hopefully being sorted for them. But for someone like a Chelsea or a club of that size who are looking to buy a striker, the problem with Callum Wilson at £75 million is that's a massive gamble on a player who has already, he's not scored more than 8 league goals in a season.
That's mad when you think about it.
I know he's had his injuries, and yes, he doesn't play for a top side, but he plays for a side that creates a lot of chances. And you look at Glenn Murray scored more goals in a season. You look at Troy Deeney scored more goals in a season. There's players down in the bottom end of the league that have scored more goals than Callum Wilson. So
mad.
For as good as he is, sometimes we do see these purple patches.
Yeah. And
I don't want that teams to get confused with a purple patch and £75 million.
I can't get all of that at all. Jesus, 75 million.
Yeah.
Oh man.
£75 million buys you Virgil van Dijk, and it could also buy you Callum Wilson at the moment.
That's insane.
So just putting that one out there.
Yeah.
Again though, huge credit to Bournemouth. They actually, I think it's Ryan Fraser and Callum Wilson have combined for the most goals this season. That's the best partnership this season. So
I can't get all that.
Yes, it's some sort of bizarre stats in that, but it gets them back on track. Bournemouth, West Ham, they look a little bit lost in their ways at the moment. They've had we were talking them up about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. They'll be back though. I think they'll be alright. They
won 4 in a row, but bit of a bad patch for them. But just like Wolves, Leicester, they'll be in around about that pack again.
Yeah, true that. Alright gang, we're going to a quick interval. Make sure you add us up on the relevant social media platforms. We'll be back in a moment with the best of the rest. Boom, we're back. Okay, into the United game, no messing around. Decent win.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Wasn't as convincing as maybe some people would have you believe. Is that a fair shout?
Yeah, and it was, to me, in my opinion, it was a deal of complacency more than anything. Because the first half, I thought United, like they have been in previous games, were very good.
Yeah.
The good value for the 2-0 win. Rashford's goal, by the way. We spoke about how good Callum Wilson's was. Rashford's,
Rashford is excelling under Solskjaer right now.
Also very good as well. And the way that he just cuts inside. And Solskjaer mentioned that he's had, conversations with him about relaxing, dropping your shoulder, and sort of, actually just placing the ball and actually thinking about it rather than being rash.
Excuse the
pun, yeah. Rather than being rash and just sort of putting your foot through it. You saw that in the finish against Spurs.
Yeah, very good finish.
And this one's both very, very good finishes. But they went in a half-time, obviously 2-0 to the good. And, I don't know whether it's a case of they won 6 games on the spin before that, whether they just thought, where United, we're doing amazingly at the moment. 2-0 up, the game is won, because they just looked like they weren't as interested in the second half.
Yes, for sure.
Yes, they created, chances still, but they had chances to kill the game off. It goes 3-0, it's game over. But they didn't, and they were a little bit sort of below par. And then they let Brighton in to get I think it was Gross, bit of a goal from nothing. And they just invited pressure on themselves then.
True that. A few things I want to point out. First, that Paul Pogba run-up does my fucking head in. Oh my God, will you please just strike the ball? Again, right, that wasn't the most convincing penalty. It wasn't that great. And he's going to come unstuck with those penalties. I don't know why he does it. Just put your foot through the ball. It just bewilders me. It really does.
it is frustrating, and I'm sure we've mentioned this in the past as well, that if he doesn't go on to score, he makes such a rod for his own back.
He looks like a
because
tit, that's why.
You just take a normal run up and you miss. It could be a good save, or you could just have a bad penalty. They'll say that was a bad penalty. Whereas he does that now, and all they talk about is the run up as well.
Oh, Paul, please sort it out, because you're gonna miss a big chance in a big game by doing something stupid like that. On another note, though, congratulations to him on having a kid as well. Not a lot of people know Paul Pogba is now a father. So congratulations to him on that. And again, congratulations to Marcus Rashford, 150 appearances for Manchester United at 21 years old. That is some achievement.
It's huge.
A lot of people were saying that Rashford didn't get any opportunity under Mourinho and whatnot, but he got ample opportunity. It's just Rashford, for whatever reason, him and Mourinho didn't mesh like most people with Mourinho. Quick segue into Mourinho. Did you see his interview with Keys and Gray?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Now, he sounds like a bitter ex, right? And he was making a lot of statements, and I don't know why he's chosen now to come out and do it. But he was talking about how modern footballers, they're sort of a different breed, and they're hard to work with. And the next club he goes into, he's going to go in, and there's going to have to be a structure in place where basically he knows what's going on, because United are kind of all over the shop. And then he started talking about the infamous laundry thing incident where he almost choked, so he was saying to death. On Michael Ballack's boxers, he was going on about a lot, right? But he came across, again, as Jose does, a little bit bitter, and I just remember thinking to myself, now is not the time for you to be talking. Maybe write a book at the end of your career and say something, but you don't need to come out now and sound like a bitter ex. And Keys and Gray, in fairness, they were loving it, because this guy was pouring his heart out to them, and they're probably just sat there going, "My God, the ratings is going to be huge.
This is brilliant. Yeah,
this is incredible." But there's an interesting question asked on BT Sport. Robbie Savage asked his guest, "Do you think Mourinho is done at the top level? Do you think he is done?"
No, I don't.
I'm of the opposite opinion. I think he is.
The weird thing about his interview was that the timing of it seems strange because of how well Solskjaer's now doing. If Solskjaer had come in and the problems had worsened or they hadn't changed, then perhaps the interview wouldn't look as weird and out of source as it does.
Yeah.
Because he's making all these excuses as to the reasons why perhaps he failed and his time under Chelsea and other clubs hadn't gone to plan. But we're watching Solskjaer work wonders as United side.
This is what I didn't. This is now the whole Mourinho thing. He was going on about X, Y, and Z, and I'm looking at it thinking, look, I'm a Mourinho fan as well. Like, don't get me wrong. You go back on previous podcasts, I'm the guy that wanted him in and I wanted him to stay, and I really argued with people online about him staying as well. But when you see Solskjaer getting the best out of that side, you then have to put a question mark against Mourinho's name. I was of the opinion, I'm still of the opinion now, that I think he's kind of done in club football. I think the Portuguese national job would be a good job for him. But realistically, where would Mourinho go in the next job?
He could go to many a top European side. There was talk about him. I know it probably wouldn't happen. There was talk about him going back to Real Madrid. There was talk about
you never go back to an ex.
No, I know.
We all know that. You just don't.
He could go to the top side in Germany. He could go to like a Dortmund or a Munich.
Well, this is the thing. Mourinho has previously stated he has no desire to manage in Germany. So unless he changes that, you can rule that out. Yeah. PSG are doing fine.
He could go back to Italy.
But that's the thing with who, though?
AC, Inter, Napoli, Roma.
I can't see him go out. The thing is, his options are so limited, right? So if you look at the Premier League, he's been at United and Chelsea. He'd never go to Liverpool because he hates Liverpool. Arsenal do absolutely nothing for him. Man City have Pep, right? Can't come back to England now. He's done. You go to Spain. He's been at Madrid. You never go back to an ex. Can't go to Barca. Can't go to Atletico. So he can't go there. You then look at Germany. He's gone, I've no interest in managing Germany. So you rule that out. PSG are doing absolutely fine. They've no need for Mourinho to be there. In fact, he'd probably start to spoil things. I dread to think how him and Neymar would get on, right? So you can rule that out. So that then leaves Italy. So Juventus, they have Allegri, doing perfectly okay. Don't need Mourinho. Inter, he's already been at. You wouldn't go back to an ex. You then go, okay, you could go to Napoli, but Napoli don't really have a budget that Mourinho would like to work with. He'd won a bigger side, and he can't go to AC Milan. Where does that leave him? Roma, Lazio? They're not big clubs.
Yeah, but...
Well, they are big clubs, but they're not Mourinho-sized clubs.
The one thing perhaps to consider in this is that I don't think he's going to delve back into football management straight away. I think he'll take maybe a year or two out, at least a year, and a lot can change in a year.
That's very true.
Dortmund changed their manager. I know he hasn't expressed much desire for the German league, but again, things could change. I don't know why he would rule out the German league. I quite like the Bundesliga. I quite like the teams in there. Me and Reece have obviously been away and experienced German football
like it.
and thought it was superb. But the manager of PSG could change. That does quite often. So it does with Dortmund. Simeone could leave Atletico. That's Mourinho's style. He could go into Atletico and there's almost a team that plays how he likes to play.
The Madrid connection, though, is...
I don't think Mourinho really gives a shit, to be honest.
It's hard. I'm convinced that he's... I'm not disrespectfully done
I
at
think
the top
he'll be
level.
back.
I think he could manage a top-level club. There's just nowhere for him to go.
Yeah.
I think all his avenues are closed right now.
The thing is, and the interesting part about his interview was that I do agree to a certain extent with some of the points that he made about how things have changed, and how it's different to what it used to be, and the structure that a club kind of needs now for it to work is not necessarily one that he's used to and that he likes. But he's an intelligent guy, and yes, we don't often see him change his ways or adapt. But if he was to make some tweaks to his management, then there's no reason why he can't be successful.
I think his ego's too big.
But that's up to him. That is totally on him.
I know.
But I think surely he's got to the point himself now where he has to understand that if he wants to make another go in football management, that he has to make some changes.
Yeah, true. The United game, there's not an awful lot to cover. Pogba's penalty was decent bar the run-up. Rashford, his overall game was superb. Quick question about Lukaku. How do you think Rashford's development impacts on his future? Could you see Lukaku maybe going, you know what, I'm just going to leave in the summer? Or do you think he'd give it another season under a new manager?
It's very interesting, this one, because you think that if Mourinho had gone sooner, and Rashford, if he continues his form now, if Rashford had produced this form maybe 18 months ago, 2 years ago, had he been played sooner in this type of style of football, would they've ever signed Lukaku?
No, these are ifs and buts.
Because at the moment, it looks like there's no need for Lukaku. Yes, he's come on in certain games.
True.
He's come on as a sub, scored 3 and 3, right? And you can't take anything away from that. He's come on, made an impact and helped us get some points. But Rashford just looks in every way, perhaps maybe not. You'd argue that maybe Lukaku is a bit better in the air with his head.
He's more of a target man, isn't he?
But aside from that, Rashford ticks more boxes. Ticks every other box.
Do you know what? Rashford offers a lot more to that United side right now than Lukaku does. And I'm a Lukaku fan as well. We obviously tease Lukaku as does everybody else. But no, ultimately I'm a big fan of him. I just think to myself, a guy who cost almost 80 million and who is very high profile, I don't think he's going to take to sitting on the bench next season.
Well, the only thing he can do at the moment is wait patiently, because Rashford is in superb form at the moment. And if you're Lukaku, you've kind of got to put your hands up and say, at the moment, there's nothing I can do. He has to wait until Rashford or Martial, for another matter, has a bad game. And I think Rashford has earned himself the right to have a bad game at the moment. So
he has, yeah. 100%.
I think Rashford would need to have maybe 2 or 3 bad games on the spin before Solskjaer looks at Lukaku. And if he does get his chance, he has to take it.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see how United line up against Arsenal in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
That's going to be a very tasty game. Coming up this Friday, as I say, we're not covering necessarily the FA Cup fixtures with a podcast, but believe me, we will be watching. And the Arsenal game is going to be pretty tasty, which is a lovely segue into Arsenal Chelsea. I'm getting good at this media malarkey, son, let me tell you. I got it down pat. All right, Arsenal Chelsea. We'll start with Chelsea. We've debated this so many times, and last week, did we mention it on the podcast last week, or did we talk about it privately about Kante?
I'm sure we mentioned the podcast. I'm sure we did.
I can't remember.
We brought it up to a certain extent.
We brought it up to an extent, yeah. So anyway, in my transfer video for Manchester City, I picked N'Golo Kante as a replacement for Fernandinho. You said, United needing a proper defensive midfielder or City. If they go to Chelsea at the end of the season with 120 million, you could possibly tempt N'Golo Kante. Kante's 27 now. Next contract he gets at a big club, 5-year contract, will probably see him through the best years of his career. So he needs to make a smart move. Sarri and his love child Jorginho. Okay, break this down for the people at home. Now, he has over 2,000 passes. 2,000 passes.
Over 2,000 passes, yeah.
No assists.
None.
No goals.
No.
Is generally quite slow off the mark, not a lot of pace. Defensively, doesn't position himself right. Okay, what's he offering?
This is my question, and it frustrates me, as you know, as well as it does to yourself and Reece as well. I'm struggling to actually give you and the people listening any real great attributes that he has. What did he cost? 50, 60 million, I believe?
There's definitely a player there, because Guardiola wouldn't fight so hard for a player like Jorginho if he didn't believe in him.
But the big but for me is that what he offered in Napoli in the Serie A, I believe, was suited to the league and the tempo.
That is a
in
fair
that
shout,
league.
I would agree.
Now, the game is a lot slower. There's nowhere near as much pressure on the ball. Teams don't press in Italy like, you know, Liverpool and City and how teams do in the Premier League. So he had that time on the ball that when he was past the ball in the middle of the park, he had time to look up, pick his pass, maybe spray a 30, 40 yard pass to one of the wingers who will square it and they'll score a goal from that. That doesn't happen in the Premier League.
It doesn't.
Now, he said, like you say, over 2,000 passes. He doesn't assist anything. He pretty much passes sideways more often than not.
Yeah.
He's not often that too much involved in their goals and any real attack and build-up play. He's pretty slow. He's not that great defensively. So it's almost like he is Sarri's love child, like you said, you know. And there's Chelsea fans are there who apparently seem to see something in Jorginho at the moment that nobody else does. And the only theory I have with that is it's to make themselves seem more intelligent, like they see something that we don't.
Footballing hipsters, I believe they are.
Indeed, yeah, that's a good thing to call them, and like they're not ready to admit that this could turn out to be a bit of a flop.
First step is admitting it.
Yeah.
You know, look, is he a good player? Yes. As you say, is he suited to this league? No. The high press that Arsenal initiated from the first minute, they absolutely tortured Jorginho. And that Chelsea side in general, make no mistake. The way they went about their business, the front three. You know, when people say defend from the front, Lacazette, Aubameyang, Ramsey as well. Oh my God, Ramsey was all over the pitch.
Yeah.
Like, how are they letting Ramsey go? I don't know.
And he's going to have a 300 grand a week deal as well in Juventus.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
yeah.
£300,000 it equates to.
Plus any signing on fee that he gets as well. So
that's crazy.
Oh God, that's some big money, and that's a significant upgrade for him. But we've discussed that previously. But yeah, back to Jorginho. That whole issue with him and Kante is going to have to come to a head at some point. Sarri blew a fuse on the weekend, and I think I've got the quote here actually.
Is that what he said, that they're not motivated?
Well, he used a translator because he wanted to get his point across correctly. So he said it in Italian and had somebody translate it into English. He said, "I'm really angry about the approach that we adopted. It's an approach we can't really accept. I have to say I'm extremely angry, very angry indeed. The defeat was due to our mentality more than anything else. This is something I can't accept. This group of players are extremely difficult to motivate." We've seen this now across a few different managers. Mourinho had a very similar problem with pretty much the same group of players.
I take issue with that comment massively from Sarri.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. To a degree, yeah, okay. But the intensity they lacked, I think that's just a basic every player should have.
Do you not think that as a manager, as a football manager of a huge club, that one of your main jobs is to motivate your players?
Yes and no. I mean, ultimately there has to be give and take. There has to be motivation.
There has to be something from within.
Motivation, yeah, there has to be something within.
But he can't be coming out and saying that his play is difficult to motivate. It's like you say, the similar things to Mourinho. That's just, especially in the public domain as well. That's just suicide.
It's a red rag to a bull.
Yeah, you don't publicly criticise your players or say things like, "My squad are difficult to motivate." Like you can't say stuff like that. That only breeds more negativity.
Well, Gary Neville made an interesting point because Gary Neville has his own podcast. Not quite ours, but it's all right.
Yeah, so
Gary
it's okay.
Neville's podcast, he said that basically Sarri is well aware of the life cycle of a Chelsea manager. They only last potentially 2 years, give or take. You might get 3 seasons if you're lucky, but it's generally 2 seasons. He's, 6 months into this already. He's just thought, fuck it, I'll throw down the gauntlet to them. Let's see how they respond. Will he get the response he's looking for? I don't know. I mean, when you look at someone like N'Golo Kante, as we've said, this goes back to your point about motivation and man management. He's being played in the completely wrong position, and as they pointed out on Match of the Day, Kante is looking, I don't want to use the word average because he's not an average player, but he's looking out of sorts. He's playing almost as a right winger sometimes, and he's at one point Hazard had the ball on the left. I think it was in the first half, and the only option he had in the box for a cross was Kante. And I just remember thinking, this is only going one way. So Sarri has a lot to do. The whole Sarri, it started off like a house on fire, and I remember thinking, this could be a really good season for them, but they're self-destructing. Yeah,
and I make a bit of a statement here. I actually think that if they get knocked out of the cup in the second leg in the week now, I think that Sarri could be sacked.
Really?
Yeah. If they get knocked out of the is it Carabao Cup? I was going to call it the League Cup. I think it's the Carabao Cup it's called now.
You can call it either or, yeah.
If they get knocked out of that, I think he is in real danger and could be sacked because, like I said, there's negativity breeding in the club. He's saying the wrong things. He's not really pleasing the fans or the board by playing probably Hazard aside, their best player, out of position. And it's not working at the moment. So the things are stacking up against him. They're not going in his favour. They're on the brink of potentially falling out of the top 4. We were about to write Arsenal off how bad their form was. They've just blown that wide open again.
Way open.
That's now a 3-horse race. And Spurs, obviously, had they have drawn against Fulham, they'd almost dragged into that as well. But they live to fight another week. They haven't yet been pulled into that just yet. But you've now got a big 3-way fight now for 4th place. And you pointed to how good Chelsea's start was. And now they're at risk of potentially falling at the top 4 altogether. You've got the Carabao Cup, which is, the chance of silverware, which might save him. Because I've mentioned in the past that no Chelsea manager lasts longer than a season if they don't win a trophy.
That's a very valid point, yeah.
But what often tends to happen is they do. Obviously, Conte won the league in the first season. Ancelotti won things in his first season. Benitez won some when he came in. So a lot of the managers do in the first season. But if Sarri gets knocked out of this cup, what's he going to win?
Absolutely nothing.
And I think the Chelsea board and Abramovich rather is so just cutthroat, and I could honestly see him potentially changing manager before the end of the season.
I mean, look, there's various issues with Chelsea which are going to have to be resolved. Like we said, Hazard now looks bang. He looks dead. He looks a dead cert to go to Madrid. 100%. You got Hazard going to Madrid. You got the issue with Kante. Ultimately, what do you do with Jorginho? Ruben Loftus-Cheek is another issue. When he comes back, he probably won't get any game time. He's one of the most promising youngsters in England. Callum Hudson-Odoi,
just about to say that as well. Yeah, there's that issue.
I mean, Callum Hudson-Odoi is just a whole podcast in itself about young players and the way they're being treated. But he's another issue. Olivier Giroud didn't start on the weekend. I don't know why, if there's an issue between him and Sarri. They were absolutely screaming out for someone up front, just a target man, just someone they could hit the ball into. Chelsea have so many issues right now, and it's the chickens are coming home to roost. Yeah,
and Chelsea, you normally expect them, historically as well, it will back up that they tend to do a job on Arsenal more often than not.
Yeah,
and you look at the stats now and they'll tell you that Arsenal have won consecutive home games against Chelsea in all competitions for the first time since February 2004.
Yeah.
And it actually took Chelsea 82 minutes, so it was the 82nd minute in the game against Arsenal where they registered their first shot on target.
They were so poor.
And that came from Marcus Alonso.
So poor.
Don't get me wrong, I know he loves to get forward, but in the 82nd minute is their first shot on target, and it's their full-back. Wing back.
Yeah, he could really lose that dressing room. Going on to Emery, did very well tactically in that game. The way, as I say, they hounded Chelsea from the start. All the Arsenal players really bought into it. Mesut Ozil left on the bench again. I can't see him staying beyond the summer if Emery's there. I think Emery's played his hand now. He's made it very obvious that Ozil is not in his plans, and he's just not a player that... I don't want to say he doesn't rate him, he just doesn't fit into what he wants. Yeah. He's not a piece of the jigsaw puzzle that Emery needs.
I think it's a simple equation now with Ozil. it's £300,000 a week that they can recoup by getting rid of him. They make it 30-40 million for him.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more. Save £300,000 a week or whatever it is that he's on, because they're not playing him. He's not making much of a difference. When he is playing, he isn't doing a great deal. He's not Emery's cup of tea. They could reinvest that money, those wages, because Arsenal are not notorious for spending huge wages on players, so they could reinvest that money. Obviously, they're letting Ramsey go as well. We've said enough on that, but that frees up more wages. Do we agree with it? No,
not
but
at all.
it frees up more wages. So Mesut Ozil at the moment is offering nothing. So
he
I
offers
think
very little other than a great water carrier, Mesut Ozil, right now.
If not now, come the summer, they need to get a shot of him, free up his wages, and just invest it elsewhere.
Yeah, the Arsenal goals, just to touch upon them quickly. Koscielny with the no look shoulder. Your favourite striker could never do that. Never in a million years could he look away and shoulder it in. What a guy, let me tell you.
I thought when it came off his head, as I initially thought, that it went into the net weirdly, and then when he was to replay and it comes off his shoulder.
He has no Achilles though in one ankle, so he can't jump. So that's why it happened. He basically had to shoulder it in, which is excellent initiative by him. And Lacazette, we talk about players not going down. He could have probably easily looked for contact, didn't. Tremendous first touch, excellent second touch. Bang in the net, and Laka does the business again. So shout out to Arsenal. I'm really looking forward to the Arsenal United game. They used to be such classics, and they kind of went downhill a little bit. But last season at the Emirates, I think where Lingard Millie rocked, it was a great game. It was a great occasion. And I love watching those games. So this is
hopefully another one.
Hopefully another one. As I say, it'll be an excellent game, especially for the neutral as well. If you've got nothing to do on a Friday night, sit down, grab a beer, watch United Arsenal. Terrific.
And just one final stat for the Arsenal fans as well, because we've criticised them a little bit in the previous weeks, but they've been known not to do well against the top six sides under the last maybe 4 or 5 years, if not more, under Arsene Wenger. But they've actually got 7 points this season against big six sides, which is more than they did. So they have 8 points so far this season against big six sides, and they only had 6 in the whole of last season. Really? So there's improvement there in terms of the big games as well. So Arsenal fans, it is something to shout about. Obviously getting one over in Chelsea, and you've got yourselves back into the top 4 mix as well.
Alright, most definitely. Alright, moving on to Reece Henley FC, aka Newcastle. I'm not surprised that Cardiff lost, because I fancied Newcastle to win it. I'm just surprised it was as comprehensive as it was.
Yeah, I said the exact same thing, yeah. It's a massive 3 points for Newcastle, because they've leapfrogged Cardiff now. So they swap places with them.
Cardiff. That's huge. Mentally, that's significant for Newcastle, because, like I said, Cardiff, I think, if I remember the stat right, it was the sequence of 10 passes or more. Cardiff were bottom, but Newcastle were above them. So neither team were really great in terms of Premier League stats, in terms of monopolising possession, keeping the ball, actually making things happen. So for Newcastle to beat them that convincingly, I just think Cardiff heads might drop a little bit now. Yeah,
you do worry for them a little bit now, because they've done quite well over the last month or so, and over the Christmas period, to get themselves out of the relegation zone and stay out there for a sustained period of time. After early doors in the season, we'd almost written them off straight away. So they've done well up until this point, but now they've fallen back in, I think, for the first time in a little while. I'll be very interested to see how they respond now.
It will indeed.
But very surprising was, like you say, the manner of the win for Newcastle. So it's rare that they win a game in general, to be totally honest. It's even more rare that they win it by 3. They score 3 goals, and it's even more rare again that they get a clean sheet. So 3-0 is out of sorts for them. Excuse me.
You alright today, or what?
It just come from nowhere. It's massively out of sorts for them, but Cardiff didn't really offer a huge deal, and Newcastle just looked in complete control.
Somewhere Rio Ferdinand is rubbing his hands going, I told you so.
Yeah.
And Rio, we completely disagree with Rio, but Rio is probably going to use this as some type of justification.
Probably, yeah.
If Newcastle stay up, look, Rafa Benitez will have completed magic.
Yeah.
Like Harry Potter style magic. Wizardry, because they're a shit show, and I mean that with no disrespect. Newcastle are absolutely. It's a dire situation there right now. What was the stat we'd mentioned before, and you were telling me again the other day? Newcastle's most expensive signing is still Michael Owen.
Still Michael Owen, yeah.
It's still Michael Owen. How much did Michael Owen cost?
15 or 16 million it was.
Cardiff have just bought a striker
Salah, is it?
For 15 million.
Different Salah.
Different Salah. Yeah, definitely not Mo Salah. But yeah, Cardiff have just bought a player for 15 million, which tells you everything you need to know about Newcastle and their transfer activity, because Cardiff are out here matching Newcastle's record signing, and Newcastle's record signing was how long ago?
2005, I believe, or 2006.
Jesus Christ.
Michael Owen.
So you can understand Newcastle fans scratching their head going, well, hang on a minute, what's really going on here? So for them to get a 3-0 win, I'm kind of chuffed for them, I'm not going to lie.
And just to mention as well, because we've given huge credit to Wilson and Rashford, Fabian, I think his name is Fabian, or Shah, or Cher. Fabian Cher, they call him. Fabian, Shah, Cher.
Yeah.
You know what we're talking about.
You know the guy.
A great goal from him as well. You saw that goal, right?
I did indeed, yeah.
Just whilst the defending is suspect. It's awful.
There's suspect, and then there's that. Let me tell you.
He's literally.
Jesus Christ.
They were the Cardiff midfield and defence were handing out invitations.
Parted like the Red Sea.
For him to just walk on through. But he has to have the confidence to do so, and he has to have the ability with his weaker foot as well to stick it in the bottom corner. So hats off to him. He actually got a brace as well. He's not known to score goals.
No.
He's known to score even less goals than Diego Jota. He doesn't get that many. I think he has only scored 2 or 3 in his last 65 goals at 65 games.
Yeah.
And he came from Deportivo as well, I believe it was.
Yeah,
where he
3 goals in previous 65 appearances in the top 5 European leagues. It's like a bus, isn't it? You wait for 1, 2 come at once. He probably did not wake up Saturday morning thinking, I'm going to score 2 goals today. That's probably the last thing he was thinking. But he's the first Newcastle defender to score twice since Philippe Albert. Which, if you remember him, he was an absolute quality player as well.
Brilliant.
But shout out to Newcastle though. Like I said, that's significant for them. Do you think they'll stay up?
I do think they have enough. Not by much, but I think that they will scrape it. The big issue for them though is that if they do, like we've said before, I think Benitez could go, and he's the glue that is holding everything in that club together right now. Without him, they have someone like a Roy Hodgson or a Neil Warnock, or look, I think of other clubs down the bottom. They have like a David Wagner or a Ranieri. I don't think. We'll come to him. He's a little bit different at the moment, but you look at other managers down the bottom. I don't think they keep that Newcastle side up.
Could Newcastle, let's say Benitez does go, which I think he will. Who would? It's difficult to say who would you go for as a manager, but would you just go for someone innovative, someone young, and say, look, here's the keys to the car, drive it, just go? Because ultimately, I think with Newcastle now, you don't want them to go stale. You want them to, if they do stay up, you want them to at least try and build upon it and try and progress.
The problem is that for any manager that comes into that club, I think they're extremely limited to where they can take it because of how bad the ownership is.
That again is a valid point, yeah.
They are given very little to no budget to work with. You got Benitez, who in seasons gone by or transfer windows gone by has handed a list of players that he would like to sign, and he's pretty much been given a list back of the names, most of them crossed off, and a realistic list of players that they can sign. So it's not Benitez's choices.
Yeah.
He doesn't really get a say, or apparently they can't afford the type of players that he wants. So he's been given a revised list of players, which is not really what he wants, and it's not really of the quality that he wants or Newcastle deserve. So there's only so far they can go on a shoestring budget. So
very true.
They're not going to get. They did superbly well to get Rafa Benitez, because I was just about to say they're not going to get a top manager. Obviously Benitez is the exception to that rule. How they got him, I don't know. But Benitez aside, if he goes, who are they realistically going to be able to get? Because you're going to need someone.
It goes back to the same names. I mean, they've already had your Pardus and your Allardyces.
And they don't want that.
No.
Newcastle fans don't want any of that because they've recycled most of them. So where do they go next? So if I take your point on board. If Benitez does go, which he could very well do, the only option they have is to go for that gamble of a young, forward-thinking, attacking manager who can bring a little bit of joy back. But that you do have to have the players to be able to do that.
Yeah, Harry Redknapp mentioned that actually on the weekend. I can't remember what he's talking about on BT Sport, but he said the one thing you need is good players. He said, look, you can be the world's greatest manager, but if you haven't got good players, you're not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah,
so,
100%.
who knows what will happen with Newcastle? Maybe there'll be some type of takeover come, the summer, or maybe sooner than that. And, this time next year, they'll be in a position which a lot of clubs will envy. But, it's difficult to say, isn't it? But, shout out to them. Cardiff, struggling again. Realistically, the three that are in the relegation zone right now, Huddersfield, Fulham and Cardiff, if you're a betting man, you'd probably stick a tenner on those three to go down.
Well, one is a cert. We've said that for a couple of weeks now. Huddersfield are.
Fulham are dropping like a stone as well. We'll come to them in a moment.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll come to them. And I still think there's a little bit of life in Fulham at the moment.
Yeah.
As I said, we'll come to those. But the bottom three, it looks like teams above them would do well to budge into that, wouldn't they, at the moment?
It's going to be interesting. Okay, gang, again, we'll go to a quick video. Make sure you add us all up on IG, Twitter, and everything else. We'll be back with the best of the rest, and we'll wrap things up after this short break. Okay, guys, we're back. Episode 30, Part 3, V&V Podcast. We'll go right into Watford-Burnley. 0-0, not the best game. Anything you would like to discuss about it?
I'm struggling. I am struggling with this one.
Moving on.
No, what I would say is that it wasn't, of the games I've watched this weekend, it certainly falls towards the bottom of the pile in terms of excitement.
That's being very generous. In fairness,
but the only one major incident of the game was that I think Burnley were a little bit hard done by with the Chris Wood goal that was disallowed for offside.
I thought that was onside.
Yeah,
I would have given that onside.
We talk a lot about VAR, and we're probably going to continue to do so right up until the end of the season when he comes back in. But we're seeing now this, there's incident week after week after week where we just turn around and say, had VAR been there, that goal would have been given.
Yeah.
So when you look back, it's not one of those ones that's really, really close either. He's quite well onside. Obviously Burnley still remain unbeaten. I think they won 3 on the spin before that.
They're looking all right. They're looking like a safe bet to me.
Yeah, they're 4 unbeaten now, but they'll be really frustrated, and Sean Dyche should be really frustrated with that one because it just gives them that little bit extra momentum again. Because 4 on the bounce would be huge for them.
Yeah. Even then, though, it's not the worst point.
It's not. No, of course not. Away to Watford as well. Had they gotten all 3 points to Watford, who were in 7th, that'd have been a great result.
That would have been some result.
Still a decent result,
Yeah, no, that's very true. Looking at some of the stats, because like I said, there's not an awful lot to talk about other than the goal itself. This was the 20th league meeting between Watford and Burnley at Vicarage Road, just the first one to end goalless.
Really?
Yeah, so the rest, usually that game would tell us there's goals, but ultimately there wasn't a B.
Tom Heaton, a shout out to him as well, he was a big part of that. He made some good saves as well.
Yeah, very good. Burnley kept their first league clean sheet away to Watford in 10 matches, which again tells you there should have been goals, but there wasn't. And Watford have won just one of their last 6 Premier League games on home soil, drawn 2 and lost 3, which is interesting considering how good their season is going.
Yeah.
You'd think Vicarage Road, they would be picking up a lot more points, but they're not doing that bad. I mean, they've exceeded probably all expectations.
Yeah. The thing is, at the moment, in that area of the table, they still sit in 7th, considering that their run of results hasn't been all that great.
No.
It's almost like outside of the top 6, no one team from 6th right away through maybe 12th position really wants to grab you by the scruff of the neck.
This is why I don't bet, people. I keep telling you all the time. It is too unpredictable. Unless you go full Serie A and you start fixing games, I'm not betting. Yeah. Because there's just a group of teams like your Watfords, your Leicesters, your Bournemouths, your West Ham.
Yeah.
These teams play each other every week and you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And unless I start a bookmakers and make a bit of cash of it, I'm not going to make any cash off of it, which is why I don't bet anymore.
It's tough. Yeah, it is tough. That little mix is like you've pointed out. This like their own little mini league, and they all just like to beat each other and take points off each other. So, unlike Spooner, I do like to have the odd little bet here and there, and I don't often win for those reasons. So, Watford are doing just fine, as we know. They're the best of the rest at the moment, and like you said, I think Burnley will be able to stay up as well. They'll have enough.
Yeah, I think they'll have more than enough We'll draw a line under that quick and move on to Southampton, Everton. Your guy Ralph, am I saying Hasenhüttl right?
You got it.
Hasenhüttl.
Only taking you, what, 6 weeks?
I was going to say, 5 or 6 weeks, but I always get there in the end.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
James Ward-Prowse, what a player that guy is.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, he should be playing at a higher level. I know he is kind of Southampton through and through. When I was watching him play for England under 21s a while back, I remember thinking, wow, this kid is a player, and he really could actually do a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I'd even go as far as to say, if he reaches his full potential, he could maybe do something at a top 6 club. Like a Tottenham Hotspur would be a great place for Ward-Prowse.
The thing is that he hasn't been helped by the managers that have been at the club recently. So the fact that he has games like this where you really see him showcase his talent.
Yeah.
And I don't totally disagree with what you said either. He has the ability, and we've seen it in more than in just a couple of games, that he's got the attributes to make it at a top club. The problem, as I said, is that he's not. Southampton as a club haven't been doing that well in the last couple of seasons. So his personal growth has been quite stunted, I think.
Yeah.
So, Hasenhüttl's come in now, and obviously he's doing bits at the moment, and Southampton look at a completely different side, and he's obviously flourishing within that as well. So. Hats off to Ward-Prowse, because he pretty much run the show against Everton.
Yeah, he ran, actually the stats will tell you he runs 7.5 miles, which is unbelievable.
Got about, didn't he?
Put in a hell of a shift.
Yeah.
Technically he's very, very good as well. I remember saying a few podcasts ago he was linked with I can't remember who it was in the Bundesliga. But again, he's more than capable.
Well, he's got ability.
He's got a lot of ability. Very good player, and Southampton are very lucky to have him, especially if they utilise him right. I mean, look, I don't even know where to start with Everton.
The curious case of Marco Silva.
We keep having this conversation every single week. I don't know why you can't get the best out of these players. They're such a talented squad. And we talk about Bournemouth and Leicester and, West Ham. I'm going to put them probably ahead of Everton right now, because Marco Silva cannot get the best out of his team. We look at Eddie Howe. He knows how to get the best of his Bournemouth team, albeit they are a bit consistent. Pellegrini, he's probably got a settled first 11 and he knows what he's after now. This guy, though, I mean, he spent a lot of money and he still cannot get it right. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know where he goes next, to be honest.
You look at the stat that we put out on the V&V Twitter page about in the same amount of games in their Allardyce, they took more points.
It's mad.
Which is it doesn't bode well for Marco Silva, that stat, does it?
No. Everton have lost four of their last 5 away games in the Premier League. I mean, look,
It's not good enough.
It really isn't. And at some point, the Everton fans are going to turn on him. The board are going to turn on him. And this was a guy who was really coveted. They wanted him for this position. They went out of their way to get him in that position for that job.
Watford had a bit of a bitter dig on Twitter. Did you see it?
I didn't.
It was
Do tell.
Basically when Marco Silva was appointed as Everton manager, Gary Lineker tweeted, I haven't got the tweet to hand right now, but something along the lines of Watford are stupid to let a manager of his talent go, and it could come back to bite them on the backside, because it's highly likely that Everton have got themselves a far more talented manager than Watford will have going forward.
Yeah.
Which at the time seemed like a pretty good observation to make, right?
I say it's a fair assessment.
So, Watford Football Club, their official Twitter page, have dug out that Guy Lineker tweet.
Oh, there's a tweet for everything.
And replied to
Tweet
it
for everything.
rather unprofessional, if you ask me.
Fuck that. I like that. I like a bit of bastardry. I like that. You know I like
I know you do,
bastardry.
so I think you like this.
I like it.
They dug out the Lineker tweet and they retweeted it with a comment saying, so this didn't really stand the test of time, did it?
Zing.
So which Guy Lineker has come back and said, basically kind of saying, look, it hasn't, you're right, but football is this way, and that sometimes you think things are going to happen and they don't. But he's basically blasted them, saying I know we joke about a bit of bastardry and a bit of shithousery. We've got plenty of time for that.
All day for that, let me tell you.
But for it's quite a slight move for an official football club Twitter page.
Gary Lineker needs to build a bridge and get over it. I like Gary Lineker a lot. I actually find I don't follow him on Twitter, but I do see a lot of his tweets. But I like Gary Lineker. But when you put yourself in the public domain and you tweet certain things, expect people to clap back as well. They're allowed to fire back. It is what it is.
They've shit all over them there. There's some serious shots fired.
The game is the game. Look, I mean, what was it? Did any people probably saw it, but the whole situation, the Spygate thing at Leeds.
Yeah.
Did you see it? Was it Pizza Hut or Domino's?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Look, I like that. I've got a lot of time for that. So Gary Lineker coming out and saying X, Y, and Z. It's part of the game now. Twitter changed the game.
I did enjoy it.
It is what it is. People can cry about it all day, but if you're in the public domain, even us, there's Wolves fans came for me. Becky will probably no doubt have had people come for him. It is what it is. Yeah. You kind of have to take it on the chin. So
in this world of social media, sometimes you tweet things and you say things and you can't take it back. And sometimes I know you often like to retweet things you've said in the past which have come true.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's great that sometimes we can predict things. Mm-hmm. But it does go the other way sometimes.
Yeah, look, it's not one way traffic.
Yeah, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. So, so Southampton, much a new side under Hasenhüttl.
Oh yeah.
They look a totally different proposition. And I don't think there's too many sides in the Premier League that would look forward to playing them that much at the moment.
Not one bit.
Everton, quite the contrast. They don't seem to have any sort of direction of where they're going at the moment. And it only looks like it's going to get worse before it gets better because, like you say, he doesn't seem to know his starting 11. The side is extremely talented on paper. As we know, football isn't played on paper. Mm-hmm. But he spent good money. He's a seemingly good manager as well, so it's just really not going to plan, is it?
No.
But just kind of back up some stats, from the things that we've been saying. Southampton have won more Premier League games than the Ralph Hasenhüttl than they did with Mark Hughes. In his 22 games, Mark Hughes won 3 in 22. Hasenhüttl's won 4 in 8.
Great record.
So he's massively changed the whole sort of landscape for Southampton there. And James Ward-Scouse.
James Ward-Scouse.
James Ward-Scouse. He's scored in consecutive Premier League appearances for the first time in his career. So it's obviously doing a lot for his confidence as well.
They look like they're all buzzing with confidence, in fairness. He's getting the best out of them. And they're buying into what he's bringing, which clearly is not happening at Everton right now.
Not at all.
I know Everton, we've said, are missing a goal scorer, but realistically, it's a bit like the Mourinho situation at United. They have more than enough talent, and the question you then have to ask is, do you have the right man to get the best out of that talent?
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say with Everton, the jury is still out. They may turn it around and they may actually go, you know what, we're all going to buy into this, and maybe it just takes time. But I don't know.
I think he will get time. Everton's the type of club that don't jump to huge decisions, especially manager sackings that quickly. So I think he will be given time. I think he will be there next season as well.
Do you think?
I think Marco Silva will be given another season.
That's a tasty job for an up-and-coming manager, mind. Mm-hmm. Do you know a really young, innovative manager?
Look at a Hasenhüttl. Maybe what he did in Everton.
Yeah, no, it's very true. But cool. We'll draw a line under that because Everton fans have what's going on about their deficiencies too much. We'll go nicely into Spurs-Fulham. Spurs really, I don't say they're struggling, but in terms of injuries, I mean, Jesus Christ, they're dropping like flies. I mean, Ali's got a hamstring injury, Kane is out, Son is out as well too now. He's not injured, he's at the Asia Cup. Mm-hmm. I mean, this Spurs side now, they were very lucky to get 3 points against Fulham, and realistically they could free fall out of that top 4 if they're not careful. They don't. Their squad is starting to show now. They do not have a lot of quality backup, and I think they've actually got Watford at Wembley in the next game. And if Watford show up and actually play how they can play, that could be very tricky.
Yeah, I think the press were already writing the headlines for Spurs before Super Harry snatched the winner. Obviously, not the Harry we've grown to expect, but there were headlines being written. I could kind of see them saying something along the lines of how Spurs were probably going to be in some sort of crisis and how they were going to go into free fall. Obviously, Kane we know isn't there, same as Son as well, and now Ali also. But you could just see the way it was going to go. It was going to be talked up like they can't cope without those players. The squad's too thin. They've lost the first game where those 2 players haven't been in the side. And then they're in some sort of crisis. They're going to drop at the top 4. Then if they'd lost the cup game, then they'd have been in free fall. So and those headlines have like completely changed because of that 93rd minute.
That
winner.
argument could still arise, though. I don't see any
Could
reason
you?
why that
But
argument
they've
can't come
papered
back
over those
this
cracks
week.
for 1 week.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, they bought themselves a little bit of time, but realistically, they're going to find it difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to find it.
It'll
really
go one of
difficult.
two ways. That will either spur them on and give them some sort of resolve that they can win games without, and it's not just without Kane. Give Son some credit as well because he's been equally as
Son,
good.
I've
as
made
Kane
my
this
feelings
season.
clear on Son.
Yeah.
I think he's probably the most underrated player
So,
in the league.
There's a lot of people saying, "Oh, Spurs fans, we've won games without Kane." It's not just Harry Kane. Kane and Son, so two of your go-to players this season for probably 90% of your goals,
Yeah.
if not more, both aren't playing.
And Ali as
Yeah.
well, like we said, his goal scoring record really stacks up for someone so young.
It does.
He'll be a big loss.
Yeah.
Hamstring injury isn't something you can come back from very quickly, unless you're Callum Wilson, pretty much.
Yeah.
But
They brought in Llorente to put the ball in the net. He did just that.
Yeah.
Just not on, not on
wrong
the right
net.
one. So he doesn't offer anything anywhere near as an impact as Kane does, even as an aerial.
Llorente's run his race now. Llorente 5 years ago was an excellent option off the bench, but
Yeah.
Llorente now is not that guy.
But the Spurs, they won a game without Kane or Son in the side for the first time since March 2014.
Really.
So it gives them something. They if they take anything from that game, it's that they played to the end, and then they managed to get something out of nothing, because they weren't all that great. I actually thought it was a bit of a rejuvenated Fulham. Weirdly, they brought Ryan Babel.
I tweeted this out. I said
He was okay.
Ryan Babel did okay, and he doesn't look out of place in the Premier League, which is great for him considering he's been out of
Like nearly 2,000 days or something like
He's
that.
been out of top flight football for a long time. But with all due respect, they don't need Ryan Babel. If
No.
you just have a solid defence and you supply Schürrle and Mitrovic,
Yeah.
you're going to be all right.
Yeah.
Defensively, they have issues. I don't understand why they've gone and
Well, they got Ryan
invested
Sessegnon playing in that position.
on the left side of the attack.
So and he's perfectly good enough. There's deficiencies elsewhere that they need to be solving.
Massive deficiencies
Other than that,
elsewhere.
but they're okay. Fulham they played well, and I think they were lucky not to get them out of the game.
They were unlucky, yeah. I'll give them that. But what I will say is that's an opportunity lost against
It
a
is.
Spurs side where
They weren't at the races, were they?
who weren't at the races, who have injuries, who have players that are away. You won't get a better chance
Yeah.
to get a pick-me-up and get 3 points. Or even a
Yeah.
point. A point would have been absolutely
great.
fine. It would have been terrific.
The thing is about Spurs is that they do clearly lack a bit of a cutting edge now. Obviously, Ericsson connected with Ali for the equaliser, which was a great goal.
Yeah.
But apart from that moment, you had the one where Fulham switched off right at the end, which they'll be so disappointed about. But apart from from the Ericsson to Ali, they didn't create a huge amount, and they come down. Like I said just now, it can go one or two ways. So it will either spur them on again, excuse the pun, to have a bit more of a resolve about them, and kind of believe that they can win without Son and Kane, or go the other way in terms of that they really struggled against a poor Fulham side. In general, obviously, that as we said, they played pretty well on Sunday, but as an overall a poor side who are in 19th place in the league, and they've scraped past them in the 93rd minute.
Yeah, I mean,
So they're going to be tougher tests to come than Fulham with the squad they've got, and with
that's
Ali
it,
out as
yeah,
well.
That's it, yeah. That's
So
that's gonna be some
how
big
they deal
games.
with that is going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, the next month will really define Spurs' season now. If they can get through that next month and get some players back, then I think okay, we're going to have to sort this cough for next week.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck is up with you this week, but that cough is unbelievable.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I have no answers to it.
We'll not wrap it up, but we're close to wrapping it up. We'll go into the City Huddersfield game. The guy that was in the stands. Did you see this with Huddersfield? They interviewed a random guy thinking he's their new manager.
No,
Did you see that? Oh Jesus Christ! I was so embarrassed for everybody involved. Basically, I think it might have been, I don't know if it was from BT or Sky or whatever network it
I
was
saw
from.
them interview their stand-in manager.
They went
wasn't
basically, for some reason, they thought this guy was the, I'll bring it up now. I can't, words fail me, right?
How did this happen?
I don't even know how it started. I don't know. Let me have a little look for you. I think it's something like Dave from Wakefield or something. I'll go on the Huddersfield Twitter page now, because I saw a tweet and someone retweeted it earlier, and I was just gobsmacked. I actually couldn't quite believe what I was seeing. Oh God, on another note, it's slightly off topic. We've no Euro roundup, but Kevin Prince Boateng has joined Barcelona, which
bizarre that is.
Yeah, I'm not.
But
I'm not understanding.
What you'll probably find with that signing is they did something similar when they signed Paulinho. He'll probably do all right because he has like some decent ability about him. And obviously, he's well past his best, Kevin Prince Boateng, but. It's so easy for them against some of the sides they play in La Liga. He'll just come into the squad and just do a couple of bits, you know.
Yeah. So basically, for those who haven't seen it, it's actually quite funny. So Huddersfield had been linked with BVB coach Jan Siewert. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Sky thought they'd spotted him in the crowd, so they sent a reporter to interview him. It turns out it was just a lad called John who looked a little bit like him. So that was yeah, not Martin from Wakefield. They put on the. I don't know how Sky got that so wrong, but that's about the highlight of Huddersfield's weekend. It doesn't get any better than that for them,
that's
unfortunately.
Have you seen the interview? How did the guy react to that?
Did
he go along with it?
It basically just said, "I'm not who you think I am." in no uncertain terms.
If that happens to you, you've got to try and go along with that. Surely.
I think he was so taken aback that he just didn't know what to do, and in fairness, in that situation, I would be so unprepared for a guy from Sky coming up to me going, "So you're the new Huddersfield manager?" And I'd be like, "What?"
Yeah. What are your thoughts so far? Knowing that you're coming into this, and
I wouldn't have a clue, bro. But I mean, look, like I said, highlighted their weekend. That's about as much as we can really say about Huddersfield. I mean, other than that, there isn't much to go off. City, I'd say back to their best. I mean, we had this sort of debate with Reece earlier on. City haven't really got out of third gear, but they don't look like they know how to find fourth gear. So that kind of answers Reece's question he was going to ask us. I mean, realistically, City do have other gears to go up. They're just not entirely sure how to find them yet, if they do find them at all by the end of the season.
The thing is with City, is my theory on it is that when they go 1 and 2-0 up against sides, they seem to kill the game so well. They take all the sting out of it to the point where sides just lose the will to live almost, and they almost give up.
Yeah,
because City passed the ball around so well. Once they got the third goal, because the second and third goal, came quite close together. Obviously, shout out to Leroy Sané, great assist and
Sané's on
a
fire
great goal
this
as
season.
well. And yeah, he's having a fantastic season.
Yeah.
Especially after the disappointment of him not going to the World Cup, which we've talked about that in depth. But
I think since then he's become a father. He's matured, and he seems like a different Leroy Sané to the one that was at the start of the season. For whatever reason, I don't know what happened, but he's looking terrific. Yeah,
but he was obviously superb, as I mentioned. But it's with City, I don't think there's any better team, especially in the Premier League or in the Europe's top 5 leagues, that when they know a game is won, they knock the ball around in such a way that it just takes the life out of the other team. They did United as well. When we were to the Etihad, and it makes it look like they're so effortless, like they have so many more gears to go into. But it's like you said, that when they come up against a side that ruins their game plan, they don't know what gear they're in, and they don't really seem to know how to react to it. Now, it hasn't happened all that often. It happened against Palace, it happened against Leicester. Those are the two big results that came. Was it back to back or close to each other?
They may have been back to back. If not, they were very close to each other.
Yeah. Obviously, Reece mentioned, would they be, if they were to pit Liverpool to the title, would they be the best side to win it in terms of how effortless it's been? It's a weird one. I don't think it's been effortless because, like I said, in response, I think any side that beats this Liverpool side to the title
have to be a good side.
Would have to be an insanely good side. And City are the only ones that are going to do it. If it's not Liverpool, it's going to be City. We know that. So
it's one of the other. Spurs are at that running now.
Yeah, it's a weird thing about City that when they really put it to teams, they just suck all the life out of them. And once they go 2-3-0 up, it just looks like the most effortless thing you can watch.
Yeah, it was very routine, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just there's not a lot to go over. As I say, Huddersfield, the only laugh we could really get out of them was the manager situation. City, like I said, it was so routine that we didn't really expect anything else. Just to go over a few stats, Sané again has 8 goals and 12 assists in his past 17 Premier League starts, which is incredible. Huddersfield have won none of their 34 Premier League games in which they've conceded the first goal. Tells you everything you need to know about Huddersfield. Let's have a little look here. What else?
The interesting one that I came across was, since losing to Leicester on Boxing Day, City have won their last 6 matches in all competitions. by an aggregate score of 27-2.
Yeah, that's like a cricket score.
That's a champion-like response, that is, if you ask me.
It's incredible.
So there couldn't be any more asked of them.
I think it'll be very close between them and Liverpool, but like I said, I'm still going to stick with Liverpool. You still sticking with City?
I'm still going to go with City. I think the pressure will eventually pay off, but it's not my favourite thing, the title race being between Liverpool and City, but it is what it is. They're the two best sides in the league.
They are by far and away the best sides. I think Liverpool have United over the next, I'm pretty sure it's over the next month, at the end of February.
Yeah, well, interestingly, Liverpool and City have both got to come to Old Trafford. Now, before Solskjaer came in, I wouldn't have been looking forward to either of those games, and they're still going to be very tough games. But I think if you ask Liverpool fans and City fans now, compared to how they would have felt should Mourinho have still been in charge coming to Old Trafford, they've been licking their lips about how many goals they can score against us. They could very well still take points off us, but they will know full well now coming to Old Trafford is going to be a totally different proposition altogether because we'll be coming to attack properly.
Oh yes.
So United still potentially have a decent say in the direction of this title race.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's going to be plenty of movement at the top, plenty of movement at the bottom, and that mini league in the middle as well. You're going to see a lot of teams go up and down. But as we say, guys, we'll draw a line under that this week. If you haven't already seen them, make sure you check out the transfer window series that me and Becky done. He's got his 3 videos, I got my 3 videos. Watch them, let us know what you think. It's unlikely some clubs will sign any players. We're at the back end of the window now, but some of those signings may roll on into the summer, and there's some pretty interesting picks, if I do say so myself. So yeah, definitely let us know your opinions on that. We won't be here next week. It's the FA Cup fixtures, so we won't be covering them. With a scheduling conflict in the middle of next week, we'll be missing that round of games, but we'll be back for the week after, and of course we'll have the latest and greatest. So for now, in the meantime, add us up on social media. You know the drill already. You've been here long enough. If you're new, come talk to us, interact with us. We're always happy to speak to people. So we'll see you next time. Take care, people. Ciao.